Am I the asshole for hugging my granddaughter and telling her she looked pretty? I'm new here, so I hope I'm not breaking any rules. I've read posts and I think I'm doing everything right. Long story short, I haven't been able to see my grandkids until recently, for obvious reasons. Well, yesterday my granddaughter was having a small party for her 7th birthday. It was my granddaughter, Gracie, her parents, her 2 brothers, and 3 families from their neighborhood. Only 15 people total at an outdoor party in their backyard. My son asked me over a month ago if I would feel comfortable coming to the party because all Gracie wanted was to see me. No presents, just a hug from Grandpa. Since she's my only granddaughter, I couldn't disappoint her. So I drove to their house, excited to see my favorite little girl for the first time in over a year. When I got there, her parents told her she had a surprise inside, and she came in to find me standing there. Gracie screamed and ran up to me to give me a big hug. Of course I hugged her back and told her I'd missed her. After a few minutes we went into the back where her friends were. I didn't know anyone, as they just moved into this neighborhood about 6 months ago, so I asked her to introduce me to her friends. She told me who everyone was, and the last little girl she introduced me to was her best friend who was wearing a dress matching Gracie's. Gracie asked me if I liked their dresses and I replied, I do. I think you two are the prettiest girls at the party tonight. The party continued on and Gracie insisted I sit next to her for pizza and dessert. She also sat in my lap at times. Today I found out from my dill that one of the other moms, not Gracie's friend's mom, took offense at me calling Gracie and her friend pretty. She apparently said I was a creepy old man for hugging Gracie and telling her she was pretty in her dress, and making creepy comments about another little girl's appearance. But all I said was that they both looked pretty in their dresses, which was true. They were absolutely adorable. Dill called the other woman a Karen, but said maybe she thinks all old men are creepy and that's why she complained. The other woman requested that I never be allowed back in the neighborhood at all. I'm shocked someone would want to keep me from my grandchildren, but maybe I did something wrong and don't realize it. If I have, I want to know. I'm nearly 73 and am probably not up to date on everything that's changed in the world over the past few years. Am I the asshole for hugging my granddaughter and telling her she looked pretty? Edit. Thank you for the awards. I don't know what they mean, but it makes an old man feel good to get an award of any kind. Edit 2. Wow, I never expected so many people to offer up assurances that I wasn't wrong. I really wasn't sure if I had done something I shouldn't have. Gracie and her best friend were the only 2 girls at the party, so naturally they were the prettiest ones there. The rest were boys who all looked handsome. Gracie wanted everyone to dress up, so the boys were all wearing nice slacks and shirts, some with ties. All the kids looked adorable, in my opinion. Thank you to everyone who has commented and said such nice things. It makes me feel better to know people don't think I was creepy for doting on Gracie. Not the asshole. Grandparents are still allowed to hug their grandchildren and tell them they look pretty, handsome when they are obviously dressed up. Either this woman didn't know you were her grandfather or she's got some personal trauma that's warped her views on what's appropriate, but either way, it's not your problem and don't let it get you down. Not the asshole, and I'm very disappointed Dill didn't shut that woman down. Not the asshole, those ladies need to go touch grass because that's not creepy at all. I would do anything to hug my grandpa again. Not the asshole, and this woman needs help. Serious help. Not the asshole, you have done absolutely nothing wrong. That mom is being ridiculous and malicious in saying you did anything inappropriate and that you shouldn't be allowed into the neighborhood. You hugged your own granddaughter. The only way that would be wrong is if she herself wasn't okay with it. All you did was give your granddaughter her birthday wish. My grandfather told me all the time how beautiful I was and how much he loved me. I was a very lucky little girl. He did that until the moment he left this earth. I was an adult at the time. I miss him every day. Your granddaughter will always cherish those moments. You seem like a lovely grandfather who has the best intentions. Don't listen to that rude lady. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. It is not weird to tell your grandchild they look pretty. Gracie asked for your opinion. It's not like you out of the blue began commenting on random children. If Gracie introduced you to her friends, who were presumably all children, did anyone introduce you to other adults? Is it possible they didn't know you were her grandpa? And #X200B. Also, if the other child you commented on's mother didn't have anything to say, then it is not the random woman's job to be making remarks. It is also possible the woman took offense to you calling another child prettier than hers, so decided to make things weird. Some people are weird like that. Not the asshole. Dill should ban the woman who complained from future get-togethers though. She is the type to find fault with any man in her vicinity and has likely caused issues before with other men. There was nothing wrong with your compliment. Your granddaughter specifically asked about her dress. There is nothing wrong with giving your grandchild a hug either. Am I the asshole for not preparing the meal my new, widower, neighbor requested? Last week it was mine and my close neighbor, friend, Sarah's turn to co-host a gathering and invite the neighbors to her house. We had a new neighbor move in. He's a widower, Jake, a lawyer, and has 2 kids that don't go out much or play with other kids' kids, although the neighborhood kids are sweet. Maybe Jake doesn't want them to socialize? Sarah said the neighbor suggested we invite Jake to the party since he's now part of neighborhood. I said okay. We invited him in person and he asked about the meals we were going to prepare. He said he didn't like any of them and wondered if we could make lasagna since his kids love it. Sarah said she'll prepare it even though we had enough meals to prepare with little time. Anyway, I prepared the meals that were on my list thinking Sarah'd take care of the lasagna. But at the day of the gathering she texted me in the morning saying she had to take her dog to the vet and couldn't find time to prepare lasagna and asked me to do it. I replied saying sorry. I still have plenty of work and I couldn't find time to go shopping then prepare the lasagna and left it at that. I got my kids and went over to Sarah's house. She was at the door waiting then asked about the lasagna. I said I already texted her that she texted on such short notice and I had no time to prepare it. She looked denied getting any reply from me thinking I agreed but I never said that. We were arguing then she called Jake to let him know I couldn't prepare him lasagna and he said he wasn't coming then. Sarah tried to convince him to come but he said he was busy. Few minutes later everyone was outside and saw Jake's car pull up in the driveway. He exited his car, gave us a look then went inside his house and shut the door. One of the neighbors went over to his house, knocked on the door and asked Jake if he wanted to join us. They spoke few minutes then the neighbor got back and berated me and Sarah for not including Jake's fav meal he requested. Sarah blamed me in front of everyone saying she had to take her dog to the vet earlier that day and counted on me to make the lasagna but I didn't. Everyone came at me despite explaining I never agreed to prepare lasagna. They chewed me out, questioned my hospitality, saying I excluded this poor widower and caused him get bad impression about them. They wanted me to apologize but I refused because I felt this wasn't my responsibility although yes I'm the co-host but I never agreed to make lasagna. I get Sarah had an emergency and she had to go to the vet. I don't blame her for that but I don't think she had the right to blame me for what happened and cause me to be shunned by everyone. Edit, because I had to mention this. We, as neighbors discuss what meals to prepare before we have our gathering. Speaking for myself, I know everyone's favorite meals and so I include those meals when I'm hosting or co-hosting. It's like we are a big family having weekly gatherings. We know each other's well. But because Jake is new to the neighborhood and in my opinion, seems a bit uptight. The neighbors thought it was necessary to ask if he'd like a specific meal included. Sarah had no problem making the lasagna but had an emergency. Not the asshole. I understand that Sarah probably feels sorry for Jake's kids, but she's being unreasonable here. Jake sounds like a completely ridiculous person. Not the asshole. He's an adult and if he doesn't like what's being served, he can bring a lasagna. Not the asshole, you had your own stuff to make and not enough time to make lasagna as well. Sarah is the asshole for thinking she can dump more work on you the last minute with no issue. And why does everyone want to enable Jake's lasagna addiction anyways? If he won't come eat with you guys if he doesn't see his lasagna, so what? He sounds like an asshole to me anyways. Not the asshole. Firstly, Sarah shouldn't ask for favors at such short notice. Secondly, you never agreed to do her favor. Thirdly, Jake is a grown man. He can make his own lasagna and as a guest he should eat whatever is offered out of respect. It's 100% Sarah's fault since she said she would prepare the lasagna beforehand. She is shifting the blame onto you. You're totally not in the wrong here. Not the asshole. Jake and the rest of your neighbors are crazy. Jake was probably looking for an excuse to not socialize with the neighbors. Sarah could have made the lasagna herself earlier instead of waiting to the last minute. Personally, I wouldn't be socializing with this group of people anymore if they're going to lose their minds over something like this. I just can't handle this much nonsense. Not the asshole. This is such a weird situation. What Sarah did sounds irritating, but what kind of grown adult only accepts a dinner invitation on the condition you make the food they want? I'm interested to know what meals you were originally making. This is madness. You're not a restaurant. And the new guy? What the hell? Entitled much? Not the asshole. Not the asshole. Lasagna isn't an appropriate thing to request a host to make. Sarah has problems blaming you like that. You were honest about what you could and couldn't do. Instead of berating you, the other neighbors could have spent their time and energy going to Jake's house and showing some grace. We are so sorry this didn't work out. Why don't you come over for dessert? Someone could have gone to pick up a frozen lasagna. While it's totally weird for Jake to request a lasagna and then be resentful when he doesn't get it, he deserves to be cut some slack. Am I the asshole for not bringing my stepson to his mother's home birth? I'll try my best to stick to just facts and keep my bias out of this. Stepson is 5. We have 50-50 custody. His mother is pregnant, no father involved, due within the next 3 weeks. My husband's company parenting relationship with her has been difficult, to say the least, since their divorce 3 years ago. His mother first asked us to not travel or go out of town for an entire month around her due date, so that we can be on call, her words, and bring him to her as soon as she goes into labor. We never agreed to this. There is also a 48-hour right of first refusal clause in the court order, but she does not believe this applies to the situation, even if she gets admitted to the hospital. No reasons given. We have had a family vacation, 3-hour drive to the beach to go camping, planned over our normal 5-day stretch with SS over my birthday, which is 4 days after her due date, and has been reserved and paid for over 6 months now. SS mother believes we should stay in town and be on call to bring SS to her as soon as she goes into labor, to her home birth, because it is important to SS to be the first to hold the baby and also cut the cord. He also makes comments like, "I'm like the baby's daddy." She insists on him witnessing the entire home birth and being part of it. Not only do we feel that she is not entitled to our custodial time, and do not think she would follow through with makeup time based on past incidents, we believe this is highly inappropriate given his age and maturity level. This child gets scared watching G-rated movies like The Little Mermaid. He also has not freely expressed any interest in the situation beyond what she has coached him to say to us. We have heard her do this on the phone, and has only said immediately after leaving her care, "My mommy wants me to ask you about bringing me to the baby." Also against the court order, she is not to speak to him about custody issues or make plans on our time, etc. We also believe that the potential for him to witness major complications, or even be traumatized by a non-complicated birth, far outweighs any benefits or learning experience he could gain from this situation. He was excited to go to the beach until she found out about it and began having him ask us to not go because of the baby. Yet, while he is with us, he is still very excited to go to camping at the beach. Even though I personally would not want my daughter, 6 years old, to be part of my labor and delivery, I do not judge others for wanting their children to be part of it, and I fully understand that she wants to bond with her son and his new sibling. We want to support his relationship with his new sibling and his mother, but he has already been having a difficult time since the divorce and we do not think he can handle this intense situation. I am thinking I might be the asshole because as a mother I sympathize with her being a single mom, and I want what is best for SS, even if that means canceling my birthday trip. SS's mother is trying to guilt us into bringing him to her as soon as she goes into labor regardless of our time, our plans, and how it could potentially affect SS. Am I the asshole? Not the asshole. This woman is literally grooming her son to be her sansband. Witness birth and cut the cord. Him saying he was like the daddy is not something he came up with, trust me. You all need to watch this in the future. Not the asshole. His mom certainly sounds like a piece of work though. All the stuff about him being traumatized aside, which I completely agree with BTW, your spouse has no responsibility to do this unless it's her time with the SS and he's dropping him off. My cousins, step-siblings, aged 7 and 7.5 years, were forced to watch the birth of their twin brothers. One passed out and hit her head badly. The one that stayed conscious remembers this as one of the most traumatizing moments of their life, and the moment they decided to never give birth or ask anyone else to. Not the asshole protect stepson from this unnecessary trauma, and see the judge about the violations of the court order while you're at it. Not the asshole. She sounds nuts. Go on your planned vacation and enjoy. Also, see about getting SS into therapy. There's a lot going on here. If you're strictly asking about the custody time, then maybe nah? You have a right to your time, but I don't think the mom is an asshole for wanting her son to meet his sibling. But if you're asking about whether the kid should be at the birth? Not the asshole. I personally think it's a horrible idea to have a 5-year-old present for a birth. I think that would be really scary for a kid. Not to mention that labor can easily last 24+ hours. Who is going to be watching this kid during that time? Not the asshole, absolutely not. You can't allow this to happen. The kid is 5. And his mom wants him to watch her be ripped apart to see his sibling brought into the world? Wow, she's either an idiot or crazy or both. That would 100% traumatize him in some way. Of course you would be seeing your mother in so much pain, bleeding so much, and the general horror that is birth. Sure, it's beautiful to bring a baby into the world, but it's a messy and scary process. Also, her desire to have the brother be just like his father worries me greatly. I have a feeling she'll basically put all the responsibility of the baby on the stepson. Parentification is abuse. You need to prevent your son from being abused. Do not stay quiet about this. Not the asshole, but don't get involved. Let your husband sort it out. Not the asshole. But this is for your husband to decide, not you. His custody time. Am I the asshole for continuing to live at my dad's even though it's destroying his marriage? I, 25F, have been living with my dad for the past 2.5 months. I struggle with substance abuse, and after 5 years clean I relapsed, OD'd on heroin, almost died, and went to rehab. My father insisted I come live with him after being discharged because I didn't have any other safe options, and he wanted to help me get back on my feet financially. I don't make a lot of money, yay nonprofit life. We agreed I could live with him for 6 months. I offered to pay rent, but he declined. My stepmom showed no sign of being bothered by our arrangement. We even went shopping together for basic things like hangers for my bedroom closet. I noticed she hasn't been home in the past month, but didn't think it too strange since she's an air stewardess and has a condo out of state that she spends a lot of time at. However, I woke up to this text this morning. Celestial Vex, I'm sitting here alone wondering what has happened to my life and my marriage. I have 2 questions for you. 1. What is it about being an independent, self-sufficient adult that is so unappealing to you? 2. Does it affect you to know that your actions will be the direct cause of the end of your father's marriage? This is my life with my husband that your selfishness has destroyed. I have always taken pride in my self-sufficiency. Clearly this wasn't instilled in you as a child. Nor now as a grown woman do you feel any desire to live that way. I feel sorry for you. It's truly awesome living your life not having to constantly ask for help from an aging parent who has already given you way more than you deserve. Please find your own place to live. It doesn't need to be today, but certainly within the month. Try to live an admirable life and let your father and I live ours. I didn't give her the satisfaction of a response. I went directly to my dad and showed him the text. He then confessed that she's had major problems with me living there since day one and has only spoken to him twice in the past month since leaving. I asked him if I'm still welcome and if our agreement is still on, and he said yes. Yet, I can't help but feel like an asshole for continuing to live there knowing it's destroying his marriage. I could move out now, it's somewhat doable, but I would seriously struggle emotionally and financially. If I were to stay here and gather my bearings until the 6 months is up, I'd have a much better chance at success both financially and with my mental health. So, am I the asshole? Edit. Decided to include an edit clarifying 2 important details I left out based on the comments I've received already. 1. They talked about it before I moved in and she agreed, albeit reluctantly. He didn't go behind her back or override her decision. 2. My using hasn't really affected them in the past. I never lived near them when I was active and was able to hide it from them and the rest of my family up until the day I called for help asking to go to rehab. When I got sober 5 years ago they were shocked and didn't know why it was necessary because they didn't even know I had a problem. Nah. Except maybe your dad. It sounds like your dad didn't consult her before moving you, a fully grown adult, in to live rent-free in her home. Addiction is no joke, but it's also an all-of-house decision to move an addict into a home and needs to be good with everyone living there. Clearly, she feels burdened whether it's financially, emotionally or both by having you live with her, and it brought her to a breaking point. However, she should be taking it up with you father, but do consider that she has tried to talk to him multiple times about her unhappiness and is being stonewalled, and that's why she's lashing out at you. Nah. Your dad needed to communicate and come to an agreement with his wife. But that's on him and it still doesn't make him not the asshole. Your father invited you. You didn't just shove in and expect a free home etc. If there's an issue with the marriage it's between them. It was super rude of her to contact you like that when the issue is that her husband put taking care of his kid above her. Not the asshole. Maybe you're not the reason their marriage is struggling. Maybe you're just a convenient scapegoat for the stepmom. She's the one with a problem. Your dad says you can stay, that you're welcome, even. I can't imagine he'd be happy if you struggled more with your emotional and financial health by moving out faster. That'd undo the purpose of him helping you get back on your feet in the first place. Believe him when he says he wants you there. Good luck with everything. Info. Why is your living there impacting their marriage? If everything is as copacetic as you write, then the 6-month agreement should be fine. What past or current behaviors are in play? I was an addict for 10 years. I overdosed 5 times. Went to 8 rehabs. My father would say the same things. I finally moved 8 hours away into a short-term rehab but long-term sober living, and after having their support and feeling like I was welcome, not a burden, I am about to celebrate 3 years clean. It hurt to put distance between my father and I. But he also said I was affecting his marriage. My counselor helped me realize that I am not responsible for his emotions or relationships. Just like you aren't responsible for your dad's. Please don't feel guilty. You can do this. I walked out of sober living with a job as peer support somewhere and support. Just like you can. There's a place for you, I promise. I am very proud of you. I know it's painful, but you are a survivor. Info. Have you given your stepmom reason to question you being in their home? Have you stolen, broken things, acted out in anger, come home high? Or otherwise engaged in unsafe behaviors? Not the asshole. Sound like your father-wife is a major awe. In my opinion, it sounds like your father loves you more than his wife, and if he must choose, he'll choose the more important one, that being you. I think the reason she contacted you is because she knows that if she forces the issue she will lose her husband, so she is trying to guilt you into leaving so it's not her fault.